I'm reading about this guy, McMaster, and at the very least, he seems to have a rational perspective
My only
on
impression of
counterterrorism.
My only impression of McMaster is he really does not seem to fit into this administration, which is very becoming.
Which is very becoming. I've also read, and I don't know if it's the case, because he is actually active duty, that he had to take the position.
That's interesting.
That
Yeah, you can't refuse a request from your commanding officer.
he,
I mean, that's basically, if that's interesting.
I mean, I don't know if that was speculation or what, but
The guy quits. He's like, yeah, forget my pension. I'm going to Burning Man. No way.
bye. So here is Steve Inskeep asking Dr. G a follow-up question from February 2nd. It's really hot on the trail as to the question as to whether or not the President of the United States considers Islam a religion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we are today.
With what was quintessentially presidential last night.
Now, there were three words that did not change, and I even sensed he was emphasizing them. He said the phrase radical Islamic terrorism. That's a phrase he used a lot in the campaign. He was criticized a lot for seeming to criticize all Muslims with that phrase. H.R. McMaster, the new national security advisor, we're aware, told his staff that that's a counterproductive phrase. Why does the president continue to use it?
Well, he didn't actually say that, Steve. You really shouldn't believe everything you read in the New York Times. So the people who were there at the meeting said that's not what he said. He was talking specifically about a given threat group, and as a result, sticking to our guns on this issue is incredibly important. We're not wavering on this one. The threat has been obfuscated for 8 years under Obama. You couldn't even use the word jihad when the enemy called themselves jihadists. So that absurdity, like something out of a bad SNL skit, that was jettisoned January the 20th, and the president is very clear. Those are the clearest three words of his speech. The enemy is radical Islamic terrorism, and that has not changed, and it will not change.
I just want to give you a quote from H.R. McMaster, according to our Pentagon correspondent, Tom Bowman, who's been covering this. He quotes McMaster as telling his staff, quote, "I don't think we should call them radical Islamic extremists. They're not Islamic. They are criminals. They're perverting Islam." What's wrong with that?
He didn't actually say that. He was talking specifically about ISIS at the time. We're talking about the broader threat. And of course they're criminals. Anybody who thinks they're not criminals when they're running slave markets and decapitating people for having the wrong passport, of course they're criminals. Our point is a broader one. It's not just about specific threat groups doing specific crimes. It's about a global movement that I like to call global jihadism, and which the president is clear on. It is radical Islamic terrorism, and that's never changed, and it will not change.
On February 3rd, when you were on the program, we asked if you felt the president believes Islam is a religion. The reason we
now
had
pause
to
it
ask
for a second. I want to go back to that question. But why does he end this line of questioning here?
Because he's up against the clock.
I mean, Gorka has just said he was talking, when he said that was unhelpful, he was talking about a specific threat group. But I'm talking about the general threat group of all what?
There's no
what
country.
is, yeah,
Right.
The question Steve Inskeep should ask at that point is, because we know what Gorka is saying, the question he should ask is, define for us the broader group that you're talking about. Because Gorka's talking about Islam and all Muslims.
And follow up to that, if after you explain that, then go back and explain how you're not contradicting what McMaster explicitly said.
Exactly. But instead, he moves on to the pre-written question he had, referencing the last time Gorka was on, and let's see what we get here.
Islamic terrorism, and that's never changed, and it will not change.
On February 3rd, when you were on the program, we asked if you felt the president believes Islam is a religion. The reason we had to ask that is because the previous National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, made some statements suggesting he didn't believe it was a religion. You weren't aware then what the president's view was. Have you learned since? Does the president believe Islam is a religion?
It would be nice if we actually reported things accurately. I didn't say I will refuse to do anything of the sort. This is not a theological seminary. This is the White House, and we're not going to get into theological debates.
The White
Theological. It would be like asking if, I don't know, just as an example, say, if a Jew runs a money-lending business, is that not true Judaism? I mean, it's absurd. Of course, it's a natural expression of their perverse ideology of their religion.
Dr. Gorka, Islam, a religion, not a religion, that's a religious debate or theological debate for you, is it?
I am not a communist.
I am not a communist, nor have I ever been. And now the notion that you would call my father an anti-Semite is absurd, when merely he was protecting small Hungarian businesses from ruthless cosmopolitans.
Me if I am a Nazi.
Steve, I'm wearing a Mandarin collar right now with a hawk pin with a flame going through it. So I think that my opposition to anti-Semitism speaks for itself.
It's not called the White House for no reason. It's not the Brown House.
It's not the halal butcher house, if you know what I'm saying.
It's the White House.
I might have misspoken. I don't know that I want to be the one personally mentioning the term ridiculous Saturday Night Live sketch during a performance. That might be just even my very existence might evoke something like
begging them to do include me in one of their sketches.
Look, I have
How come I am the one let out of the sketches?
Look, I have a PhD in theology from the Rider University Extension School, so I'm perfectly comfortable having this debate, but not in my function as a head of geostrategy at the Trump University Institute / White House, which is the new name that the White House is going to get.
It's Dr. G to you, sir. Not just G, but Dr. G.
Steve, I have a question for you, if I may turn the table. Are you Jewish?
Steve, Inskeep. Inskeep? Was that your original name?
Yes, we knew a lot of Inskeeps during my father's time, and he did a lot of moving Inskeeps out of their inns, if you know what I'm saying. I like in our routine, though, we actually are making, apparently as horrible as Dr. Gorka's dad was, he actually did something.
He was a man of action.
He was a man of action.
He wouldn't just sit on the sidelines.
He wouldn't call up a Jew to complain about his Twitter feed, as an example. He would ring them right out of their home.
That's right.
I admire old dad.
Man of action.
You could look at that in my Trump University PhD doctorate. Dad, man of action. And how to kill Islam. A counterterrorism strategy.
I've added to my father's repertoire.
Dad, man of action, and how to destroy Islam. A counterterrorism, geostrategic, geoastrological, forward-based, forward action approach for Trump University.
By Dr. G. I say that so that I can remain approachable by all white people.
It doesn't matter whether they be Norwegian or Scottish or anything else. You can approach me.
The victims of the Great Swedish Wars.
Victims of the Great Swedish Wars. You can approach me at any rest stop in the real America, and I will be quite receptive.
Feel free to walk up to my Chevy Tahoe or my F-150.
You'll notice that at a airport in Minnesota, I might have a wide stance, as it were. And feel free, if you're a white man from a Northern European extraction, to tap right by.
The beta boys are back in town.
The alpha males are back in the restroom.
The alpha boys are back.
The alpha men are back at America's rest stops.
All right. Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.